Welcome to the Life After Sugar podcast, the podcast that's not just about sugar, but about your relationship with it and also with food and especially with yourself. So if you want to discover your life after sugar and hear inspiring stories from all kinds of people who also cut out sugar in their way, at their pace, for their own reasons, this is the podcast for you. Because when you take away the sugar, you can finally discover the real sweetness in your life. I'm your host, Netta Gorman, and this week my guest is Nikki Cheek, and she's a fellow mom with 3 boys at home, and we talk about whole foods, how she feeds her family, and how she helps other moms find more energy in, let's face it, the sometimes overwhelming life that we live as moms. We'll get to our chat in just a minute. But first, I just wanted to tell you that if you're looking for some free resources about how to get rid of cravings, then I have plenty for you. First, download my 5 tips to get rid of cravings. And those 5 tips may not be what you think they are. So go to aftersugarclub.com and download your 5 tips today. And come check out the Life After Sugar Facebook page and subscribe to the Life After Sugar YouTube channel, as well as my Instagram account at My Life After Sugar, which is where you'll get all kinds of inspiration so that you can see that it's perfectly possible to live a happy and active life, even if you don't eat sugar. You can also check out my TikTok account at Netta_lifeaftersugar. All right, so today I'm talking with Nikki, who is in Missouri in the United States. And welcome, Nikki. Can you tell us a little bit about how you grew up in the States with food and sugar especially?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. So I grew up I actually moved around quite a bit. So we moved around growing up. But really, we grew up as my mom would always make dinner. We definitely had snacks, little Debbie's and all of those things in the house, but there was always a balanced meal. So making sure that we had fruits and vegetables like always in the house. It was always like one of those meals where it was like some sort of meat or fish and then vegetables, right? And that's really like what we grew up eating. And then for lunches, she would pack our lunches all the time for school, and we would always have fruit or vegetables in our lunches too. And so I've kind of taken that now and into my own life and my grown-up life, especially with my kids.
Yeah. So you had some kind of protein and veggies, and were there any types of sides, like starchy sides?
For dinner, yeah, I mean potatoes or things like that, but not necessarily always. Like sometimes yes, sometimes no. It just kind of depended on the night.
Mm. And always dessert, you were saying?
No, not always dessert. Most Almost always not dessert. Friday nights would be our pizza nights where we would order pizza and maybe we would have soda, but it wasn't very often. And now um now I don't drink soda at all. So
Yeah. So you didn't get a taste for desserts or soda or any of that stuff when you were growing up, and you didn't feel like you were missing out?
well, we did. I mean, we definitely had dessert. We had all of it. We had access to it sometimes, but it wasn't a thing where it was an all the time thing, right? Like it was more for special occasions or, we would have dessert. We wouldn't have dessert on a regular basis. And sometimes our dessert would be fruit, right? Like that would be dessert was fruit. Um, but nothing to the point where like we had cake or cookies or pie or like all of that after dinner every night. Definitely not.
Okay. And then so through your teenage years and your 20s, did you have like a relatively healthy relationship with your food?
Yeah, for the most part, I would say. I mean, definitely in college, like, you go and you're like, you don't know what to expect, especially your first year. And so you go and you're like, okay, I can have whatever I want, right? I can have whatever I want whenever I want. And so, you go through that like phase of the ups and the downs of, not knowing necessarily what to eat or how to eat healthy because you've done it all your life, but now you're on your own and you get to make your own choices. And in college, it's sometimes just easy to see, oh, I can have this, this, and this, and this, and not really think about the long-term impacts. And so definitely in college, I feel like I went through a phase where I probably didn't eat as healthy as I should. But once I moved out on my own, when in those first few years when you're not making a ton of money, you're going more for convenience and not as much for the health factor always, right? So I think there's a little bit of that there as well. But as I've like grown and learned and really focused in, that's totally changed.
Okay, tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, so I would say, we've always, as a family, we've eaten, relatively healthy. And by what I mean by that is like we really we make sure we have vegetables, we make sure we have fruit in the house all the time. Um, But I would say up until, like, the last couple of years, we really didn't, and not even years, maybe, like, last 5 years, we really didn't focus on, like, always whole foods, right? It was more some of the processed stuff. And what happens with that is that there's all this, added sugar and added chemicals and added all the things. And so you don't realize why you're not feeling well until you start eating that way. And then
Mm.
when you start not eating that way and you start eating whole foods and you start eating um, you know, fruits and vegetables with every meal, and not the extra sugar and the hidden sugar, you realize, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. My skin looks better. I feel better. My stomach feels better. Just everything feels so much better.
Yeah, yes, as much as feeling better can become your new normal, so can feeling exhausted and, energy slumps and cravings. That can
Yeah,
feel like normal, or you can feel stuck in there. So, you've noticed the difference according to what you were eating in your general well-being and energy levels?
100%. I don't think that people really realize how much added sugar goes into certain things, into certain products, right? You just think, oh, this looks healthy, or oh, it's gluten free, or oh, it's this, or oh, it's that. And the marketing does a really great job of
Mm,
portraying certain things. But when you really start to look deep into some of these ingredients and some of the labels, you start to recognize like, oh my gosh, they're adding in all of these hidden sugars. And it's crazy to me, to think like when we were growing up, Gatorade was great. Um, as an electrolyte. But now it's one of those things where it's like I won't give that to my kids because yeah, it's an electrolyte, but if you realize how many grams of sugar are actually in that, what are you doing for them? Nothing.
yeah. Yeah, and I don't think sugar is an electrolyte anyway.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah, despite popular belief, or despite popular marketing, I should say.
Right. I think I just saw a study not too long ago that a 20-ounce Gatorade had 25 grams of sugar in it.
Mm.
And that's your daily intake of sugar for the whole day.
Yeah, and I would argue that that's 25 grams above what your daily intake should be, but won't go down
Yeah.
that road.
No, but you're right. I mean, especially of added sugars for sure.
Right. Yeah, I find it a bit ironic that there's some kind of recommendation, for a certain number of grams of added sugars where I'm like, well, why don't you just recommend zero? But I guess, I'm all alone in that.
I don't blame you for feeling that way. And I think it's definitely something, we try as a family to work through and not do so much added sugar, right? But I think for the general population, unfortunately, there has to be some sort of guidance because
Yeah.
otherwise, why not?
Yeah, I
Right?
totally
Like,
agree. I totally agree for the guidance. I just think the guidance as it stands, it's misguided, but
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
So now you're a mom, right? And so what's your approach to feeding your kids? You were saying, you make sure they have fruits and vegetables every day, every meal. What
Yeah.
else?
So I have three boys. They are tweens and teens, and so they're always hungry, right? And one of them is definitely at the age where he recognizes all the things that other people are eating and that he's not because we don't buy it. Um, and so for me, it's one of those things where if I'm going to buy processed or ultra processed foods, which doesn't happen often in our house, I choose things with better choice ingredients. I choose things that have less ingredients, less sugar for sure. Um, and we have a practice where on Sunday nights in our house or Sunday afternoon, we always there's we take like 30 minutes. We cut up a whole bunch of different types of vegetables and we put them in baggies so that the kids for lunch can literally just go in the fridge. And as part of their lunch, they just grab whatever fruits and vegetables they want. Um, and usually they'll have either a sandwich, um, peanut butter, maybe some honey, which natural sugar, right? And then um, they'll have, sometimes we'll do something different for lunch, but they'll always have fruits and vegetables. And that is like one of their main staples. That they're getting to the point now where they're like, we need more food, but we're still figuring that one out.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, fruits and vegetables are nourishing, but they're not particularly filling, as far as I
No.
know. And so,
Yeah.
what do you give them? 'Cause I know I've got a teenage boy at home, and it's like a bottomless pit. Plus, my
Oh,
sister's boyfriend.
right.
When they're both here, it's like a whole week's worth of food is gone in one meal. You know?
Right. Yes. Let's see. So we will do, um, sometimes we'll do things like, um, macaroni, or my one son will actually make homemade fettuccine, and he'll pack that for lunch, and he'll make it like himself. He'll make the sauce himself. He'll make everything himself. So there's really, he knows what exactly is going into it. Sometimes we'll do I don't love to do lunch meat, but sometimes we'll do lunch meat. Um, Sometimes the kids take leftovers from dinner, depending on what it is. Sometimes I make a roasted vegetable and like orzo pasta that they really, really love. And so that can be actually eaten cold. And so they'll take that and they love that. Um, there's other things that they'll kind of like pick around and take for lunch. I'll usually find some sort of like granola bar, not necessarily granola bar, but a potential like carb to put in their lunch. I love the Simple Mills brand because I know exactly what's going into all of their food. Um, and there's a couple other brands that I trust, so I'll put those in there. And then a lot of times we'll make protein energy bite balls. And so we'll make those and then they'll put those in their lunches. Recently, for two of my boys, I've also started putting protein shakes in their lunch. And I just take the protein powder and I put it in a thermos and then they just add water to it when they're at school and they shake it up and that actually really helps a lot.
Okay, okay. And for the protein balls, what goes in them?
Peanut butter, oats, protein, um, usually a chocolate protein, um, chia seeds, flax seeds, honey, and that's it.
Okay. And so it's protein powder. What's in that protein powder? I mean, what's it actually made of?
Yeah, so I actually buy a very clean protein, one that is I can list every single ingredient on there. And so for that protein, she does not sweeten it with cane sugar. She sweetens with pure stevia leaf. And so there's not a lot of there's no added sugars to it. It's still all natural. But there's maybe 10 ingredients in the whole thing.
Mm.
And that's been really nice. So I don't buy anything with added sugar to it because I know like there's so many protein powders out there that are just filled with junk.
Right, absolutely. And it kind of makes me smile a little bit that protein should be considered, it's like considered acceptable for protein to come in like flavors, like chocolate flavors. I'm like, how can protein be any other flavor than the food that contains protein? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's interesting because the protein that I buy, she does have a lot of different flavors, but she also sweetens it with natural food. So, her chocolate is cacao powder, right? Which is actually a superfood. And then her strawberry is actually not a flavor, it's a dehydrated strawberry that she puts
Right.
into to her fruit. So she she does have flavors, but they are all natural from actual ingredients and not flavors that are chemically made in a
And
factory.
okay. Is it animal-based protein or plant-based?
Four different types. So it's whey, chia seed, um, pea protein, and collagen.
Okay. All right. And so, because what do you choose that kind of protein bites or protein shakes because unprocessed protein, like meat, let's say, is just not feasible to take in a lunch?
Yes and no. I think sometimes it's just because you really need so much protein throughout the day, especially as you're getting older and you're, you know, building your muscles and you want to keep your muscles, right? So you do need more protein. And sometimes, yeah, sometimes it is harder to take in a school lunch, especially for my younger kids who don't have access to like a microwave to warm something up. So sometimes it's easier because I don't love to do lunch meat, a ton of lunch meat. Sometimes it's easier to do a protein shake and replace with that if we're not doing some of the other things.
And are the protein shakes or protein balls, are they actually cheaper than, let's say, as I say, unprocessed sources of protein, not lunch meats, but actual unprocessed meat?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think it's a combination. We definitely, you know, have we do eggs and we do meat and we do all of those things, but for lunches it's also hard because I don't necessarily want them buying the school lunches because school lunches are just filled with a bunch of junk.
Yeah.
And so it's not going to give them the energy and it's not going to give them the like nutrients that they need to get through the day
Yeah, totally get
and to
that. I
stay
mean,
focused.
yeah. I want to take a quick break to say that if this is your first time here, then welcome and thank you for listening to this podcast. And whether you're new or a regular and you haven't yet rated or reviewed this podcast, could I ask you to scroll down and tap on the stars to rate this podcast and also to write a short review to let me know how this podcast is helping you in your life after sugar. I love reading your reviews. And when you rate and review this podcast, not only does it encourage me to continue making new episodes, but it also helps to share this podcast and have more people see it so that we can help more people feel better and lose weight with less sugar. So again, thank you for rating and reviewing this podcast and for spreading the word about sugar. And have you noticed in your three boys like a difference in their level of energy, their level of concentration, that you know, let's say compared to either before or compared to other kids?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think that I notice when like because you can't always control what they eat all the time, right? Like they're gonna go places and they're gonna,
Sure.
they're also at the ages where they want to eat what they want to eat. And sometimes they're like, well, mom, we're not gonna listen to you, right?
Yep.
Um, and that's totally fair.
Yeah.
And I don't always stop it, but I can always tell when they've had too much junk because
Yeah.
I can
How?
see it in I can see it in their mood. I can see it in how they're talking. I can see it in their energy. I can see it in their face, like their skin or, um, like if they've had too much sugar, like the breakouts, I can see it.
Ah, yes, yes, yes. And yes, and they, you know, like even into adulthood, they have to find their own comfort zone and their own
Yeah,
limits. And we're just there as moms to guide them as best we can. And we're not perfect either.
no,
Mm.
no,
And I
no, we're
think
definitely not. And I don't think there's a world in which you can be, but I think there's always options to make better choices.
totally, totally. Yeah. And I think it's important for them, our kids, to see that we're not perfect, and that we don't have all the answers. We're doing the best we can and we have their best interests at heart. What else can we do as moms, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
100%. You can
Yeah,
guide them and you can educate them all you want, but then, at some point they have to make their own choices too.
exactly. And we have to let them.
Exactly.
And I often say that our kids don't listen to what we say, but they're watching
One
24/7.
Absolutely, they're always watching. They may not agree with what you're doing, but they're always watching. In fact, I've noticed my middle one, there's things he just won't eat. He refuses to because he's learned and he's had, he gets it. Um, and he's not at the age yet where he's like gonna push back too much.
Mm.
Give him a couple years and that might change.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. So, so tell me a little bit more about how you use all this knowledge that you have, not just about nutrition, but about health and healthy eating and everything else, to help others.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I am a certified health and wellness coach, and I work with women to kind of kick fatigue to the curb so that they can feel great and have energy to hang out with their kids and really make the most of every moment. And so, I really focus on helping women to understand that, and moms specifically, helping them to understand that they're not always tired, right? Like, I think so many moms go into being a mom and they just feel exhausted all the time and they're resigning themselves to the fact that, okay, I'm a mom, so I'm just going to be tired, right? And really, at the end of the day, that's not true. You don't have to be tired and be a mom, like, they don't go together. um that, yes, are you going to have times where you have sleepless nights and things going on and you're busy? 100%. But that constant exhaustion and that constant fatigue that so many moms feel isn't normal. And so I really like to work with moms to kind of change that mindset and walk them through my framework, which focuses on mindset, healthy eating, movement, sleep, and really just how to help sustain that new lifestyle, because it has to be a new lifestyle when you're going into wanting to get rid of exhaustion, right? It's not just a quick fix. um, and really helping them to understand how to sustain this for the long haul.
Yeah, wow. And so, is that moms of kind of all ages or with kids of all ages that you?
Yeah, absolutely, moms with kids of all ages for sure,
Yeah,
because I think there's no, like, I have 3 boys and they're teens, and I'm in a different phase now than I was when they were younger, but, I mean, it's a different busy phase, right? And so there's other reasons that you're exhausted all the time, or that you can feel exhausted all the time. And so, yes, I definitely work with women of all different ages, who are in all different stages of life, because there's really no telling when you're gonna be tired.
yeah, yeah, totally. And so, what's like the biggest struggle that moms have in your experience? In your experience?
Yeah, I think the biggest struggle is that, um, they're in their head thinking a couple of different things. One, I don't have time. And two, if I make this change, it's going to be too hard to make a change like this. And so those two things together combined are really the things that I start working with women on, because it's so important for women to understand this is not, like, it doesn't have to be hard, and it doesn't have to be complicated, and it doesn't have to take over your life. There are ways in which you can do this to, and where it's short and small and sustainable, and you don't have to overhaul your life overnight.
Yes, because that sounds very overwhelming when you already feel as a mom that you have no time and no energy. And it's like, okay, we'll just implement this 26 step, program. I'm like, no.
Well, yeah, 100%, and I mean, as a mom, like, it's just like you said, it's overwhelming, like, there's too much going on, and
Mm.
you feel like you're always doing everything all at once, and your mind's racing about all the things you have to do the next day, and if you're a working mom, it adds another whole layer of complexity to it.
Yeah, yeah, you're talking to the right girl here. Yeah, definitely. And it's like, it's funny because it's ironic that when we do actually cut the foods, i.e., sugar, let's say,
Yeah,
that we think give us more energy, my experience has been, and people I help as well, has been that no, actually, sugar takes away our energy or gives us more of a crash than a boost.
so much so, yes, I talk about this all the time and really, really encourage people to watch how much sugar they're taking in because I think, there's times where you have, especially moms in the morning will have coffee with sugar and, that's not the best thing to have first thing in the morning, right? Like it's going to give you that quick energy boost that you might need, but then you're going to crash from it. And it's so much better to start with, getting an actual like protein and healthy fat into your diet in the morning. Um, and some, carbohydrates potentially, as long as you're getting the protein and the good fat, that's going to give you more energy than have your coffee an hour or two after you wake up.
Mm, yeah. And is it the sugar in the coffee or the caffeine in the coffee that is like you're saying is not the best way to start your day?
Sugar for sure. I mean, caffeine actually too, like you really should have more food in your system first before you and even I actually start my day every morning usually with water and lemon and pink Himalayan sea salt because it helps give you those electrolytes that you need from being asleep. Um, so in the mornings where maybe I don't do that and I will have a cup of coffee and put some maple sugar in it. Yeah, I definitely feel different.
Yeah. Yes.
Like,
It's like you have to make that you have to make that change or at least experiment with
mhm.
changing how you break your fast in the morning, as it were, to be able to experience how you react to it because we're not all the same.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And it's a good way to experiment and try it and really understand how you feel in the mornings for sure.
Yeah.
Because by the afternoon, if you don't take care of yourself during the day and you don't eat the right things and you're just eating a bunch of sugar, you're going to feel horrible by the afternoon.
Yeah, yeah, yes, I remember that well, even though it was a long, long time ago. Definitely. And so, what about when, real life happens, right? And when you're a
Mhm.
mom, you've got things coming at you from all angles. And it's like, I want to eat well. I hear this a lot. I want to eat well. I want to make these changes sustainable. But, life, life happens. And it's like I just don't have the energy to make those changes sustainable. How do you help moms with that?
Yeah. So in my experience, it's making small changes, right? So once you've built one change into your routine, whether it's movement, whether it's cutting out certain things or adding certain things, like I don't love to tell women to cut things out right away. I would much rather women add things in because I think that's the first way that you have to do things to start feeling better. Um, and so once you start doing things small, and that becomes something that you're already doing because it feels good and you recognize how it makes you feel, then you can add something else in. And I think that's what is so hard about what so many other people talk about is like you've got to do all of these things and they've all got to happen all at the same
Mm,
time, right? But at the end of the day, you make small changes and maybe you do things for a week, 2 weeks, and then you're like, oh, I'm feeling really good. I feel like I can add something else in. Um, and so that's how I work with women because at the end of the day, it's not feasible or sustainable to try and change your nutrition, your sleep, your exercise, all at once, right? Like your
yeah.
stress. Like you do that, then you're gonna quit because your brain is on overwhelm.
Yeah, it kind of feels like it's adding to the stress, you know?
Yeah.
When we're
And
already overwhelmed, it's like, yes, I talk about James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, right?
hmm yeah,
And so that is like a 1% change over time will
yep,
yield huge differences.
results. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And that's very much the direction that I help women go because it's you want that sustainable change, and the only way to make that sustainable change is by doing things a little bit at a time.
Yeah, yes. And so it becomes less overwhelming, more doable, more sustainable. And the
Yeah.
ladies that you help, the moms that you help, what do they say? Like, how long is your coaching program?
It's 12 weeks.
12
So
weeks.
it's like 3 months,
Yeah.
right? And so maybe they're not seeing and they're not making every single change, but I'm teaching them the ways in which they're going to get to that place. But in 3 months, you can make a big change. You can change a lot in 3 months. Um, and so I take things step by step, week by week, and I have 6 modules that they'll go through. And so they have 2 weeks to implement everything that we talk about. Um, but I also make it in baby steps so that they're not doing certain things and asking them questions to uncover why they maybe want to make this change right now or don't want to make this change right now. And if there's a really good reason of why they don't want to make a certain change right now, well then it's not the right time for them to make that change.
Yes.
Um
You need to
and
respect that.
so yeah, but like I think it all starts with a vision, right? It starts with 6 months out, a year out, like what do you want your life to look like in a year?
Yeah.
What do you want to wake up feeling like? How do you want things to feel in your life? And I think working small and going back from that way really helps to unlock a lot of different conversations that help women to really determine what they how they want to feel and the changes that they do want to make and why they want to make them.
Yes, totally. Yes, I have that in my program as well. I'm not a very woo kind of person. And when I first came across visualization and manifestation, I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Me
But
too.
yeah, right. But it was this whole concept of concentrate on how you want to feel and let the universe decide or, you know, organize how it's going to happen. It was life changing for me. And I
Hmm.
can see how it can be life changing, once we get over our resistance, which was big time for me. I
Same.
can see how it can be, yeah, life changing.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And it's funny. Because I was listening to something the other day and it was with the manifestation babe. And she said, the universe understands your secret desires. And when they understand your secret desires, like if you don't act on it immediately, then the universe will find a way to make you act on it, right? And she used the example of like, if you've really been wanting to take a week off to like just relax and get better, like have, just some downtime and you don't act on that, then the universe is going to say, okay, well, I'm going to make you sick or I'm going to have you break your leg or I'm going to have you do something and you're going to end up in bed.
Totally. Yes. And it often feels as a mom that we're like, look, I want to manifest and I want to take that week off, but there's laundry and then I have to run to the grocery store. Oh, and then my kid has this appointment and that appointment. It's like, I don't even have time to manifest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, it just feels like we're spinning around, you know?
Yeah. I feel that a lot.
Hmm. Yes. So it really is, it feels like a vicious cycle or some kind of like impossible. I can't manifest this, that, or the other because I haven't got that mental space to even sit for 5 minutes.
Yes. And that's where I help women figure out how they can fit those 5 minutes in a day. Because let's be honest, how many of us pick up our phones and start scrolling? And then 30 minutes later, we're like, we're deep into stuff and we're like, oh, where'd those 30 minutes go? Well, you could have used those 30 minutes to do so many other things.
Yes, we don't realize it. That's true. Yes. And I remember thinking, oh, I have the time to manifest. I just don't believe in it. you know?
Yeah.
And as I said,
Mhm.
then I managed to, thank goodness, I managed to get over myself. And it's powerful stuff.
It is. It's so powerful.
Yeah.
I'm just getting into the beginning stages of it, but like really living it.
Yes. And it what I found, and this may seem like it doesn't have any connection to sugar, but actually it does. Everything
Yeah.
does. But what I found is that things that you manifest, even when you're not aware that you're manifesting something, doesn't have to be a conscious activity, but things that you manifest happen in totally unexpected ways, right?
So much unexpected ways. Yes.
We're a bit of like when you're a mom, you have to become a bit of a control freak because there's so many things you need to control. But manifestation has a way of taking, for myself at least, taking my control freakiness and saying, hey, I'm in charge now. You know,
Hmm.
the universe is like, look, take a back seat. I'm in charge now.
Yep. I'm gonna take over.
Yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah.
love like realizing, oh my God, I think I manifested this. It's like, but I didn't expect it to happen this way at this time, you know?
100%.
And I find that
100%.
even living sugar free, it's like I don't remember actually manifesting it because I didn't even actually know what manifesting was or visualization was back then. But I'm like, I knew I wanted to feel better. As vague as that was, here
Hmm.
I am, now 8 years later, but at the time, thinking, well, this is how I'm living. It came to
Yeah.
pass.
100%. 100%. And that's it. Like you said, you didn't know what you wanted to feel better for, but you just knew you wanted to feel better.
Yeah. And that, I know that the more detailed and specific we are about our manifestation goals, the more likely the universe will give it to us because it understands what we want. But even like I never said to the universe, hey, I want to cut sugar. That wasn't the goal whatsoever,
Yeah.
right? But the universe heard, I want to feel better, and it was like, okay, here you are.
You're getting rid of sugar.
You're getting rid of sugar. I was like, no, no, that's not what I meant. But yeah, it's amazing. And it's amazing that you're helping mums specifically in this way because, I'm sure there's a lot of mums listening and I'm a mum myself. And it's like, it's we have to deal with so much as a mom. It's
Yeah.
like it feels constantly overwhelming.
Yeah. I 100% agree. And there's so many ways in which you don't have to let it feel so overwhelming. And I think a lot of times we let the best of us like get in the way, right? We let our own selves get in the way. And that's part of the reason we're overwhelmed. And that's not to say like we won't have overwhelming weeks or we won't have overwhelming like seasons in our lives because I mean, I'm constantly running to sports and like the schedule's crazy and all of those things. But there's also a way in which you can manage it.
Mm. Yes, yes. That sounds hopeful and inspiring and motivating. And so, if someone wants to get in touch with you or find you, how can they do that?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at intentional.wellness.coaching. Also on Pinterest. But Instagram's pretty much the best way to get in touch with me.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Nikki. It's such a pleasure to talk to you and to feel understood as a mom.
It was
That's
great. Thank you so much.
you're so welcome. Thank you. Oh, wow. So lovely to talk with Nikki and to feel that connection as a mom that real life can get pretty overwhelming and frustrating and downright exhausting. And it's sometimes really difficult to balance motherhood, work, and self care. But Nikki shows that it is possible with a little bit of help and with less sugar. And if dropping sugar as a form of self care seems illogical, unattainable, or even impossible, then you can get the guidance, the support, and the motivation you need inside of my 12-week program, the Freedom from Cravings Formula. It's a program that's specifically designed for women over 50 who want to get rid of cravings and feel more in control around food, especially sugar and comfort foods. In the program, you'll get step-by-step guidance and customized support through the 5-step formula that I've developed to help you get control over cravings so that you can finally live your life with more energy and fit into your favorite clothes effortlessly and feel confident in your food choices so that you can ditch the shame and embarrassment that you feel every time your emotions make you slip or fall off the wagon, and so that you never feel like you're on some kind of a restrictive diet. If you're at the stage of your life where you're finally ready to look after yourself, let's chat. You can hop on a free clarity call with me at any time by going to aftersugarclub.com and clicking on the big green button, Schedule a Clarity Call. We'll have a quick 30-minute one-on-one chat to see if the Freedom from Cravings Formula 90-day program is a good fit for you. So go to aftersugarclub.com. Speak soon. That's it for this week. Keep in touch and see you soon for another episode.